Welcome everyone. This is Carl Goldfield with BrandChats, and today we are doing the last session of our social business webinar event. And we have one of my oldest colleagues, one of my mentors, one of the people that got me into sales leadership, and when I first got into consulting, really gave me a lot of advice. Really glad to have Jeb Blount with us today. Welcome, Jeb.
Thanks, Carl. Well, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, believe me, I'm really excited about this one. Today we're going to be talking about Jeb's latest focus, his latest book, Making Customers Love You, The Real Secret to Delivering a Legendary Customer Experience. I'm going to let him tell you about it more. I'm going to let him tell you about what he does and who he is. But just a quick overview. Jeb is the CEO and founder of Sales Gravy. Sales Gravy is a fantastic sales social network that is the largest sales employment site in the world. He also is the author of 6 books, one of those being the new book that we'll be talking about today, which is Making Customers Love You. And he has, is it 25 years now of sales leadership experience? He's been doing this a long time. Don't mean to date you there, Jeb, but you've got quite a bit of experience here. So that's enough about Jeb right now. He's going to talk about it more. I'd like to make sure everyone knows, before we get started, that we will be live tweeting. And if you look, we'll be live tweeting at Bchats. So, you know, when Jeb has something interesting to say, we're going to jump in and talk about it. So, without further ado, we'll pass the controls over to Jeb, and we will jump in.
Hello, everybody. Again, Jeb Blount, and welcome to the experience economy. The focus of this particular presentation is delivering legendary customer experiences. How are you able to get your customers to love you, and not just, you know, think of you as a cool brand or a place that delivers service to them, but how do you get them to become viscerally attached to you, your company, your brand, and who you are? As Carl said, hold a second, Carl, let me get these slides to move for me. As Carl said, I'm the author of 6 books, including my newest book, People Love You. My email address is there, by the way, on jeb@salesgravy.com. So if you want to reach out to me, just send me an email, and also my phone number is on there, 706-664-0810, extension 109. If you want to get questions afterwards, I'm happy to answer your questions. The Customers Love You, People Love You is the third in a book around sales leadership and customer service based on the human side of delivering experiences to customers, leading people, and selling to people. The one thing I think is important to understand about customers and your brand is that every interaction with a customer creates an experience that they feel, that they remember. And these experiences are cumulative. So over time, I mean, whether the experience is negative or whether the experience is positive, that's what anchors people to your brand through either relationships or brand loyalty. And you know, a year ago I was on an airplane. It was actually right before we wrote this book. And one of my clients is a group up in Chicago, and they were having a board meeting, and I work with them on some of the revenue issues that they have in their organization. And my contact there, Dean, called me and said, we need you to come up here as quickly as possible. We've got this impromptu board meeting. And I said, sure, no problem. And I said, when do you need me there? And he said, tomorrow. So these guys have been a great customer, so I moved my schedule around, went online, bought a plane ticket, and got on the plane to go to Chicago. And I was flying out of Augusta, Georgia. Now, the problem for me is that most people don't realize this. I spend almost all of my time on airplanes. In fact, in the last 3 months, I spent, I think, 67 nights in a hotel room. So I'm almost always on the road someplace. Most people don't realize when they see that how claustrophobic I am. And so claustrophobic, in fact, that on many occasions, if I'm flying in a window or a middle seat, I'll just cancel the flight and go the next day. But in this case, there was nothing I could do. And because it was a last-minute flight and the flight was full, I got the very last seat on the window side in a 757, and if you've been on a 757 lately, they're just the most cramped airplane that you can possibly imagine. I called the airline, I begged and pleaded, I went to the airport early, I begged and pleaded. There was nothing that I could do to change my seat. And And so for me, it was just a matter of, a mental discipline to get on that airplane, because I just could. I in fact told my own wife, I said, if you look on CNN, they're hauling some guy off an airplane in a straitjacket. It's probably me. So I walked on the airplane, and I was walking on. I was looking to my left and right, and the folks that were in first class, I was just really resentful. They were sitting there drinking their drinks, and I was talking myself into getting to the back. I'd even gone and put some meditation music on my iPod so I could listen to that on the flight. I'd got myself a snack and put some books on my Kindle so I could read, and I went back to the back. And as I was going back to the back at the very back of the airplane, there's two restrooms, and the flight attendant was standing between the two restrooms. So I looked up at her and smiled and said, "I said, how you doing today?" She just looked at me and she scowled at me. It was just ugly. And so the way I am, I looked back at her and said, "Gosh, you must be having a bad day." And she turned, and I got the look from hell. I mean, she was just mean and ugly, and she said, "Every day here is a bad day." Well, I got the message. I don't like customers. I don't like passengers. I don't like my job. I don't like this airline. Go sit down, shut up. So I got my seat and proceeded to pray that big people wouldn't sit next to me. And sure enough, the two biggest people I've ever met in my life sat next to me. But I made it through the flight. But during the flight, what I noticed was the flight attendants were mean and hateful. They were ugly. They were condescending. They talked down to passengers. It was a horrible experience. I mean, not just that I was stuck in the wrong seat, but just because the entire demeanor of the flight crew was just mean and ugly. But I got out of the airplane, I went back to I got in my cab and went to see my client. But all the way there, all I could think of was, every day here is a bad day. Every day here is a bad day. When I got home, I thought about it enough. It made me so mad that I went and I asked my CFO to pull our records for this particular airline. How much money had we spent on that airline? And it turned out we had spent $50,000 over the past year on tickets on that airline. And in fact, I spent $1,200 on my last-minute ticket to go to Chicago. $1,200 so I could be treated like crap. And we made a decision right then and there that we would not fly that airline anymore. And I can tell you that since that time, I've only had to fly them once. I just had no other choice but to get on them to go see a client. But that's what we've done, and we cut them off. $50,000 we took from them and gave to another airline. Now, it wasn't that they didn't get me there on time, because they did, and my bag showed up, and I was safe and sound, and I'm still talking today, so they certainly exceeded my expectations, a lot of companies say. And they certainly provided a service that I paid for, which was to get me there and get all my stuff there. But the experience with them, what I remembered, was horrible. It was so bad that basically, and you know if you fly, I basically changed my life around to fly an airline, other airlines that are not as convenient as this one, because I'm closer to another hub. So the reality for you as a business person, as a business owner, as an account manager, wherever you are in your business, is that remember that the interactions that you have with your customers create an experience that anchors them to your brand. Now, the reality is that a lot of folks talk about customer experience, and there's a reason why they do. And there's a reason why customer experience as a discipline has come to the forefront. Not so much because we understand that customer experience drives better service scores and net promoter scores, but more because we understand that experience, because it's emotional, is something that we can use to anchor people to us viscerally. We also understand that people will sometimes spend money even if they have a bad service and a great experience, but when they have poor experiences, really poor experiences, they tend to vote with their feet in their wallets. They tend to leave. And the studies tell us that 50% of customer experience is purely emotion. Now you think about social branding, you think about, I run a big website, I'm a consultant as well, and we build a lot of sales training, but we on our website, we understand that people, yes, they come and buy things from us because we provide a service and we deliver a product, and obviously if you don't deliver a product and service, they're not going to buy from you. But 50% of the customer's experience is based on emotion. And human emotions drive virtually all of our behavior. In fact, most people, most customers, most buyers, your employees, people act on emotion and they justify that with logic. Yet most businesses largely ignore the human emotion in their customer relationships. The other thing it tells us that customer experience is such a big deal is that customer experience has basically become the new marketing. It is the new branding. A couple of sources, Strativity Group, Nielsen's Global Trust and Advertising Report, tell us that word of mouth, which I think we all intuitively know, word of mouth is far more impactful in terms of generating revenue referrals than any other form of advertising. Businesses that invest in customer experience get more referrals. And we know that if someone tells someone about our business and they come to us that way, that they're more likely to spend money and they're more likely to stick around for the long term. But all of these other things, search engine ads and banner ads, all of those things, those two things, and there's a list of about 100 different ways of advertising. All of those things have less impact. That doesn't mean that they're not important. It certainly doesn't mean that it's not important for people to be able to get to us in those ways. It just means that the ability to deliver that experience and generate that word of mouth referral is big. Now, how does this impact you if you're talking about social media? Well, the thing about social media is that people are talking to you on social media. They're interacting with you on social media. They're interacting with other customers on social media. And one of the things for companies who are online or who are offline and monitor online is that you've got to realize is that process of dealing with you via social media has an impact on customer experience. Recently, I had a real issue with a company that I was working with, and I've got a fairly large following on social media. I'm north of about 100,000 people that follow me in various ways on social media. And so finally, I said, I'm gonna take this to the internet, and because I couldn't get anybody to respond to me in that customer's office, so I went on and I wrote some nasty things about them on Twitter. And 2 days later, somebody showed up at my office and they fixed my problem, and I was happy with them. I'm still a little bit miffed that I had to write something ugly about them online to get them to show up, but at least they were paying attention, and I knew that was something that was there, and they earned a right to win my business back because they at least responded to it. The flip side of that is I had another company that was doing me wrong, and I decided I'd try the same thing. I did the same thing, found their Twitter account. I even found the email that they said to email them on Twitter, and nobody ever responded to me, and I quit doing business with them. So be aware how important customer experience is to generating referrals, and if you use Net Promoter as a measurement, customer experience has an impact on your Net Promoter score. So what's love got to do with it? And we talk about customer experience in the business environment. If you're in consumer, obviously customer experience is a lot easier. It's easier to connect those dots. I focus mainly in business to business, which is why you see the slide saying this, but just because it says business to business, don't take that to mean that I'm not talking about you. But what does love got to do with it? So the thing about love is that if you think about love, if you think about somebody in your life that you love, it's a visceral emotion. When I say visceral, it's something that happens deep inside of you. You feel it, you own it, and you want to be near them. You want to be close to them. You're willing to tell other people about them. Love is sometimes really hard to explain as an emotion. When we wrote People Love You, we went out and we interviewed almost 500 buyers, account managers, managers of account managers. We went out and interviewed these folks, and we asked them about the people that they dealt with at the companies where they spent their money. And when they talked about the people of those companies that they really like, they used the word love. We heard it over and over and over again, and that's why we chose the term People Love You. Because what buyers would tell us is that they would talk about their account manager, John, and they would say, we love John. As long as John is there, we will continue to do business with them. And it drove home the point for us is that people do business with people. Customers do business with people. Whether you're an online company, your customers are going to call up, they're going to work through things, they're going to deal with you that way. They're going to deal with people online, they're going to deal with people. So through social media, they're going to deal with people. And they're going to love the people that they deal with. So as a business owner, or if you're an account manager, or you own your own business, or or you're in a situation where you manage people who are taking care of your customers, you have to understand and think through, how am I going to teach my people to get customers to love me? How am I going to do that? How am I going to teach them to make those interactions count so that you anchor your brand to those folks? And oh, by the way, customers are people too. They're rational, they're emotional, they're human beings. They make buying decisions based on emotion, not on logic. And they're not companies or departments or org charts or CSR scores. They're people. And by the way, people don't love companies. They love you. They love you and your employees. And you don't serve companies, you serve people. And this is an important thing to understand. A lot of companies, they talk about their customers as something that's abstract versus a buyer who has a name and who has their own motivations. And one of the things that you can do as a company is start focusing on that, and it begins to change your trajectory. It begins to change how you think about your customers and the way you view them. The thing about customer experience, though, is it's woven into the fabric of imperfect business environments. I mean, nothing is perfect. Nothing in your business environment is perfect. Things are broken. Things are broken all the time. And you may sit around and wish and hope that everything is going to be right, but it's probably not going to be. The thing about account management professionals, customer service professionals, are that their job is to mitigate this imperfection. Their job is to shape and mold the customer experience through human relationships. And when you figure that out, and you stop thinking about how can I make everything in my company perfect, and you start thinking about how can I make the interactions between myself and my people and my customers better, then you'll begin moving the customer experience far. And one thing we tell people is you cannot always control your product, service, or delivery, especially as you get bigger. You can't always control your customer satisfaction because that is something that happens on the inside of your customer, and they're going to report to you their satisfaction. You just can't control that. You certainly can't control your customer's loyalty to you. Loyalty is a weird thing, but you can't control that. You can't control your customer's expectations. You can ask them about them. You can try to exceed them, but that's a moving target. And you certainly can't control your competitors' actions. Your competitors are always going to be out there one step ahead of you. The one thing that you can control is the experience that you deliver to your customers. That's the one thing that all of your people have the ability to, and it's completely in your hands. And I know it sounds a little bit elementary, but the deal is you are in control of that. You make that decision every day, every interaction, every time you touch a customer, you make the decision to deliver a great customer experience, to do more than you have to, or to do just enough. You control your actions, your behaviors, your processes, your communication. You control your reactions. The customer comes at you, they're unhappy, they bring you a problem. You can control how you respond to that. And you certainly can control your attitude and mindset and beliefs about people and customers and the way they respond and act to you. Finally, most customers are lost for one reason. They're lost in neglect. I was just having a conversation. I'm up in Pennsylvania, and I was with about 50 people about an hour ago, and we were just talking about this. And one person was telling us a story about losing some customers, and we had just said this, and after they got done with the story, they realized that they had lost those customers due to neglect. 68% of customers who don't return cite that an attitude of indifference by an employer or an associate is the reason. 68% of customers who don't return to a company, who don't buy again, say that it was indifference, it was neglect that caused them to go away. If you're a business owner, we could just stop right now. If you run a company, if you have a customer service department, you could stop right now at this moment and say, if you really want to protect your brand, if you really want to anchor people to your brand, figure out a way to make sure that you do not neglect your customers, that you're constantly touching them. You see, the thing about customer experience is that customer experience, the customer experience that you deliver to your customers, it's far more powerful than your product, your service, your pricing, your competitors, anything in that. It's way more than that. You make the experience legendary because people love you. They love your people. They love those interactions. They love what happens, how it's delivered. If you were just completely online, then take a look at your website. How does your website interact with them? And when they do call, when they do have a problem, and trust me, I've run a big website. I've done everything in the world to try to make it easy for people to use without having to call us. But they're going to call. It better be a great experience, or they won't call back again. Now, when we talk about customer experience, we try to get people to focus on these 7 essential principles of customer engagement. Principle number 1 is that you need your customers more than they need you. You need your customers more than they need you. We say that this one mindset, if you could get everyone in your company to own this mindset, that you need your customers more than they need you, that if we didn't teach you anything else, we didn't say anything else, that one thing would change your company. That one thing would change the way that everyone views a customer. And they would treat customers like they were the most important thing in the world. When they looked at their paychecks, when their paychecks came home, they would see their paycheck and they would understand that that paycheck came directly from a customer. And they would treat every customer like they were precious. We see that customers are people. They're humans with emotions. They're humans that have real lives and real things going on. They're illogical. And if we understand that, and we understand that business is essentially human, it's just one person solving another person's problems, then we create these better emotional connections that then translate to brand loyalty and brand awareness and people who come back and buy from us again and again. We teach that you're always on stage. Your customers are looking at you. They're listening to you. They're watching you day in and day out. They're looking to see, who are you and what are you delivering. They want to know, are you true to your word? Because the thing is that most customers today are not looking for what you're going to do right. They're looking for what you're going to do wrong. And that trust that you build through that process is massive in terms of creating that brand loyalty. We see that customers act on emotion and justify with logic. We just talked about that. Customers make emotional decisions, not logical decisions, yet most branding that we do, most of the pitches that we give, most of the company brochures, most company websites are all focused around bullet points of logic versus messages of emotion. Customers do things for their reasons, not yours. You come up with these really great programs or really great messages or really great products, and customers don't buy or they don't like, and you can't understand it. Customers make decisions based on what's important to them, not what's important to you. And customers certainly don't do illogical things on purpose. We all see customers, we all have customers who make bad decisions and blame it on us. We all have customers who use our products the wrong way. We all have customers who hate us and it was because of something that was completely out of our control. And we blame the customer. We tell them they were wrong. And I submit to you that customers don't do illogical things on purpose, and it's your fault. When things don't go right with a customer, you need to go look at what happened, what was the root cause, what caused the customer not to know how to or not to use something in the right way or not to understand it. In fact, we had a customer the other day that was angry at us. We have a customer service line. We have an account management line. We have all of these pieces available, and they were mad because they couldn't get in touch with us, and we couldn't understand it. I mean, we were absolutely baffled. And we realized that the portal where that customer came in, we didn't have a phone number there. And it wasn't until after we did a root cause study of why that customer would be so mad at us when we provided every way in the world to get in touch with us, that we realized that we had a place where we hadn't even thought of. Customers don't do illogical things on purpose. And our company mission statement, I guess value statement, says two things. We're going to be nice to everybody no matter what. That's number one. And number two, we always give more than we have to. And I submit to you that those two value statements for us have driven our growth as a company. I mean, we've gone from nothing to being the largest sales employment website on the planet. We have a who's who of Fortune 1000 companies that do business with us. We do consulting and sales training across the globe. And we do that because we always do more than we have to. We always give more than we have to. And we're nice to everyone no matter what. And finally, when you look at customer experience, there are 5 core levers. Lever number 1 is putting customers first. And that means that as an organization, nothing is more important to the organization than a customer. We focus on building emotional connections. We recognize that branding and customer service is more than a product or a message. It's an emotional, visceral response to us. And that when we build and keep those emotional connections, we keep customers for life, and we create these unbreakable relationships that our competitors cannot penetrate. We believe that solving problems is the key. Problem solvers are the champions of the business world. People do business with people who solve their problems. And when they're emotionally connected with you, they'll actually tell you what the real problems are, and they'll bring problems to you that you can solve. And we know that all of customer service, all of the customer experience, every relationship you have is built on trust, and without trust, nothing else matters. And we always try to anchor our relationships with positive emotional experiences. We want people to be thinking about us when we're not standing in front of them. We want them to go out there and tell our story. We want our customer service to be, our customer experience to be legendary. We start with putting customers first, and one of the easiest ways to put customers first is just to make it easy and pleasurable to do business with you. When I meet with executives and I say, is it easy and pleasurable to do business with you, they look at me because they're ready for me to bring out some charts and a bunch of fancy words and all kinds of crazy things that consultants do, and I basically say, listen, let's take a look at your business. Is it easy and pleasurable? Is it easy and pleasurable? And what we typically look for is something called the experience gap. And the experience gap is this. And when you think about business as easy and pleasurable, we both, you and your customer both have the same goal. You want it to be easy and pleasurable to do business with your customer wants it to be easy and pleasurable to do business with you. The problem is that what's easy and pleasurable for you is not necessarily what's easy and pleasurable for your customer. So for example, if you take this chart here, what's easy for you is that your customer sends in completed paperwork on time and you don't have to chase them down for it. What's easy for your customer is no complicated paperwork and no hassle getting my project or my installation or whatever I'm delivering started. What's pleasurable for you is that customers rarely call, and when they do, they're not even demanding. They're just happy to tell you how happy they are. What's pleasurable for your customer is that when they do call their project manager, their account manager, what have you, that the person they talk to is helpful and attentive to their needs. In every business, in every situation, there is an experience gap. There is an experience gap between what you want and your customer wants. If you want to deliver a legendary customer experience, tear your business apart and begin to find those experience gaps. And empathy is the key to that. The most effective way to bridge the experience gap is through empathy. In other words, if you can stand in their shoes and see things from your customer's perspective, answering the questions, what do your customers want to experience? Is it easy for your customers to do business with you? Is it pleasurable for your customers to do business with you? And what changes do you need to make that happen? It'll be much easier for you to, from the customer's perspective, to understand where those experience gaps are in your business. And some questions you might ask, is, are you accessible? Do you answer your phone, text messages, emails when customers call? Do you quickly follow up? Do you provide proactive updates on project deliveries, reports, or outstanding deliverables? Do you show up on time for appointments? Do you quickly deal with complaints? Do you practically offer solutions? Make a list of questions longer than this. Think about what your customer wants for it to be easy and pleasurable for them and focus on that. Building emotional connections is really the key to getting customers to open up, to have them tell you what their real problems are. And really all you need to know is one thing. The most insatiable human need is simply to feel important, to feel appreciated, to feel cared for. When customers talk about businesses and when they're really unhappy, when you get them past all the logical, their price, their this, their whatever, and you ask them, what did you feel? In interviews with customers who have left your business, you will hear over and over and over and over again, I just didn't feel like they cared about me. I just didn't feel appreciated. And the easiest, fastest way to make someone feel appreciated and important is just to listen to them, just to talk to them, just to let them tell you what's important to them. And the thing you have to understand, especially in the customer service and account management world, is that customers tend to communicate stories. In those stories, they tell us their emotional cues, what's important to them, what they want. The problem is that most of the time we don't listen to those stories because we're too busy either listening to ourselves or trying to get the customer to dial their story down into bullet points. But people don't communicate in bullet points. Sit down with your account managers, your customer service people, yourself, and learn how to listen to customers and allow them to tell their stories, and focus on listening deeply. Listening deeply is learning how to listen with your eyes, your ears, and your heart. Because when you listen deeply, you become aware of their emotional cues, their pain points, and it opens the door to deeper probing and understanding what their problems are. Now, a couple of small things just from an email standpoint. I know we're on a social branding, but man, we use email all the time. And by the way, email could be LinkedIn, it could be something you send someone on Twitter, it could be a Facebook. Number one thing with customers, never express negative emotions. Use email, use those type of programs to just give the facts. And never give bad news or say no via email or text. Never do it. I know we're in a world of instant communication, but if you got to tell a customer no, pick up the phone. Find a way to talk to them. And do your best to avoid negotiating via email, although it's not always easy to do that. And sometimes with some customer relationships, that's okay. And the number one thing that we say to people, and you can see in the news the employee who's done something stupid on Twitter or Facebook or what have you, and this is just a rule. Pause before you push send. We've all had it happen where we send an email or we posted something we wish we could take back, and I know I certainly have. And the key rule for me is when I'm dealing with customers or dealing with employees or anybody that I'm working with, when I'm in doubt about those other rules, I just pick up the telephone. Problem solvers are the champions of the business world. When you solve your customers' problems, they just give you money. And the thing about problem solvers is that problem solving is not who you are, excuse me, not what you are, it's who you are. Problem solving is an attitude, it's a belief. Problem solving is who you are on the inside. It's a commitment to service. I'm always going to go out and look to see where my customers' problems are, what's impacting their business. Instead of talking about my stuff, my products, my services, my brand, my message, my marketing, instead of talking about me, I listen to them. I ask questions about them. Problem solvers are the champions of the business world. For a second. Problem solvers are the champions of the business world. And what problem solving allows you to do is leverage the pull strategy. The pull strategy is really simple. The pull strategy simply says this. The pull strategy says that when customers value me, when they see me as a resource for their business, for their life, they call me up. They ask me my opinion. They give me the opportunity to shape the experience that they have and also shape what they buy from me. And one of the most important things you can do in the process of shaping that, a process of learning your customers, and process of being a valued resource, is instead of defining what winning means to you, take the time to define what winning means to your customer. Sit in their shoes. And winning can be different from different customers. Remember, customers are people. They got emotions, they got issues, they got problems. Focus on that. And what I always say to people is, listen, if you want to be a great problem solver, harness the power of curiosity. If you're curious, you want to learn about your customer and learn about their business, you really care about them. And you use things like do questions. And do questions are, what do you do here? Tell me how you do that. What happens is when you become curious, you begin putting your agenda aside and you focus on your customers, which makes them feel important, and it helps them reveal the things that you can do to help them. And if you help them, they become extremely loyal, and again, it anchors your brand. And I said earlier that no customer experience, no customer relationship can exist without a foundation of trust. And the most important thing that you can remember when it comes to trust for you and your people is that you are absolutely always on stage. They are watching you. They are looking at you. They are seeing if you're going to keep your problems, if you're going to do things right, are you going to be nice to them? And one thing I can tell you about building trust and being on stage is that if you resolve a complaint on the spot, 95% of customers will continue to do business with you. Customers do not expect you to be perfect, but they expect you to respond. And when I go into companies and help companies fix their customer experience issues, fix their customer service issues, the number one thing that I see consistently day in and day out across every single company I go to is that the response is lacking. In other words, when customers call, when customers need help, nobody's on top of it. Nobody's jumping on it. But when we fix that thing, most of the customer service issues go away. And finally, don't let customers find your mistakes. And all this means is, listen, you're going to screw things up. You're going to make promises and that you're not going to be able to fulfill. Something's going to go wrong. Do me a favor or do your customer a favor. Tell them first. Don't let them find it. We had an ad agency that bought ads on our website, and they were buying them through a network. And we had a glitch in our ad server, and the problem was that we didn't serve their ads for like 3 days in a row. This is a massive ad agency and ad network, and unfortunately, they didn't even notice it. I mean, it was not enough. It was not enough impressions to make any difference in the world. But my vice president of sales wrote them a letter and apologized to it, and said, we were going to do a 30-day make good because of our screw up, and we were just doing a little bit of business with them at the time. And they came back to us, and they were appalled. They could not believe that we had told them the truth and told them that we had screwed up. And today we do a huge amount of business. They're about half of my ad buys, and they love us, and because they know that they can trust us, and they know that we're always going to be there. We're always going to be honest about what we have done. The other thing is be organized in the marketplace today. And I'm just going to tell you, from a branding standpoint, the barriers are so low for entry for most businesses that if you make a small mistake, you're going to open the door for your competitors, and they're going to be standing there trying to take your business away from you. Now, one of the things we talk about is dealing with pissed off customers in terms of a trust issue. Rule number one: don't piss them off in the first place. Rule number one is don't piss them off in the first place. And there's 7 ways you piss off customers. One thing is they can't get through to anybody when they need help, and when they do get through and they leave a message or what have you, nobody returns their email or gives them a call back. They also get mad because, again, they felt you fail to respond to issues quickly or you break promises. The other thing is that you have a failure to keep your deadlines, and this is especially true if you're a consultant. You're not dependable, and especially if your failure impacts their customers. The other thing that really makes them mad is that if the same problem keeps happening again and again, which means that you're not getting to the root cause and fixing the problem. And number 7 is instead of listening and gaining a full understanding of their situation, your first move is just to prove them wrong. And I see this all the time where, especially online businesses where you call into a customer service rep, they spend the entire time trying to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about versus trying to find a way to help you and open that door up. It's kind of like when you call up, if you called up a help desk or a customer service center for a computer issue and they ask you if you've turned your computer on. Number 2 is don't make it worse. So a lot of companies, they make it worse, and the way they make it worse is they repeat rules 1 through 7 on how to press them off in the first place. The second rule is tell them to calm down, or that you cannot help them until they calm down. The one thing about customers, when they're mad, is that they want to vent. And the worst thing you can do is tell them not to vent. Let them vent. Or even more, talk down to them in a condescending tone of voice. Sir, if you don't stop talking to me this way, I won't be able to help you. Or tell them you don't like their tone of voice or the way they're speaking to you, or be defensive. Because what they really want is somebody to own the problem, but you're defensive and you push them off. Or tell them you can't help them. I'm so sorry, but there's nothing I can do about that, or that's the policy and I can't help you there. Or even worse, blame someone or something else. The one thing customers want when they're really mad is they want you to listen to them and they want you to take ownership. So rule number 3, when a customer's pissed off, and you're going to deal with pissed off customers, shut up and listen. Now finally, anchor relationships with positive emotional experiences. An anchor on a boat, for example, holds a boat in place. Now, there's all kinds of things that blow it around. There's wind, there's waves, there's tides, or what have you. And you gotta manage that. But think about your customer relationships. What are you doing to build anchors on your customer relationships? One of the things is tapping into the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity says if you do something nice for me, then I want to do something nice back for you. That means giving you more business, giving you a referral, or what have you. What are the little things that you do for your customers? Well, how do you remember things? I mean, if you're an intimate small company, one of the cool things you can do is remember birthdays and remember anniversaries, remember neat things about your customers. If you're in a big company with lots of customers, some of the things are just being nice to people, having fun, focusing on the emotional cues, making people feel important, making every interaction personal. But think all the time, how am I making sure that when I'm not there, when that customer's not dealing with me, they're thinking about me? Because trust me, here's the deal. There are 10 competitors lined up right now in front of every one of your customers, and they're doing their darndest to take them away. And you've got to make sure that customer is thinking about you. And even if your competitor brings them a compelling offer that they might want to take, at least that customer loves you enough to call you, to give you an opportunity to make that change. So, Carl, I'm going to turn it back over to you and see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Jeb. Thank you very much. That was fantastic. We've got a comment for you, and then we've got some questions. The comment was, you should contact AT&T. They don't understand how to deliver good service except to be polite.
I've had very similar experiences, and I had one recently with a major cable company that handles all our business networking that didn't quite understand the customer experience piece.
Okay, so the first question I have for you here is, you say to be kind when people are upset, but what do you do when someone's being rude?
Well, if you adopt the belief that I need my customers more than they need me, and I recognize that I've pissed my customer off, something I did made them mad, and they're being rude, the one thing that they want is they want to get it off their chest. We use a virtual PBX in my business, and so we were having a problem with our phone system, and one day one of my customers called me up, my customers, and absolutely let me have it. And they were livid because they were trying to get through to one of my account managers and couldn't get through. So I in turn called up my phone service company and I let my rep have it. I mean, I was mean, rude, nasty, ugly, cussing. I was pissed off. And she was really calm. And she said, Jeb, I am so sorry to hear that. I apologize. Let me see what's going on. And so she stopped for a minute. She looked at it and she says, oh, I see what it is. She goes, I see that you set your new account managers up, but we didn't extend the contract, so we haven't paid for those other lines. She says, you know what, this is really my fault. I should have been paying attention to what you guys were doing and keeping a better tab on your business. She said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead, get them set up. We'll just extend it for a month at no cost, and I'll make sure this doesn't happen again. I promise you that I'll do a better job of monitoring your account. Now, I was rude. I was ugly. I was mean. And she set me down. She didn't fight. She didn't tell me I was wrong. And I apologized. In fact, I wrote her a letter and apologized, and I wrote a letter to her boss and told her boss how good she was. I felt so bad. And what you find is that most customers will feel that way. Most customers who are mad at you, if you just let them vent and listen to them, they'll apologize. Now, there is an exception to that rule. If you have a customer that won't let you help them, I mean, all they're doing is yelling and screaming and threatening and cussing, and you say, listen, I hear you, let me help you. Can I ask you a couple of questions? And they won't come along and they won't engage, then, you know, there's not a lot that you can do there. I mean, if they won't come dance with you, that's a problem. But I assure you that the businesses that are, and I just worked with a really large call center, and we revamped everything. Stop telling your customers not to vent, let them go. And what everybody found was, if they just let the customer get off their chest, the customers were apologizing. And believe it or not, the customers were reporting they were having a better experience because the reps were taking the time to help them. That's my answer, Carl.
You know, it's interesting because I tell people, and one of the things that we really talk about with social media monitoring is some of your biggest customer evangelists are the people that were most upset with you that you turned around. Right? And it's not that the people that just immediately fell in love with you talk about you a lot, and I agree they do bring up a lot, but usually the people that talk about you the most are the people that you've done something wrong, but the way you handled it or what you did to fix it built a bond and built a form of respect that allowed them to see you in a different light. You went from zero to hero, and they really talk about those experiences.
Right? No, you're exactly right. You know, one of the things that's really kind of interesting in our business, and we noticed this a long time ago, is we've always said if we make a mistake and, you know, early on in a customer relationship and then respond to it brilliantly, we'll usually keep that customer for life. And so that's the whole deal is don't worry about trying to be perfect all the time. You try to be perfect, but you're never going to be perfect. You live in an imperfect world. Focus on your response. The number one reason why customers get pissed off, honestly, is because their vendor screws up and they get a poor response. And you're exactly right, Carl.
Well, thanks. So I got another question here, and I'm going to preface this question by maybe saying you can share some examples. The question is, paraphrasing a little bit, what do you mean by anchoring emotion to experience?
So experience is emotion. So really what we're doing is trying to anchor an emotional experience to you. We want to anchor your customers to you emotionally. So let's say that you have a one-to-one relationship with a customer. We want that customer to love you. We want to try to build that visceral relationship. And all the things that we talked about create that, solving their problems, connecting with them, closing the experience gap, making it easy and pleasurable for them to do with you. And so emotions are things that people remember. We think that people remember a product that we sold or a service that we delivered. That's not it. They deliver the experience they had with you or one of your employees, or through the process. Startling as it may seem, even in sales, what recent studies are telling us is that the experience of going through the sales process is as important as the message, as the pitch. It's the experience. So when you think about that, you always should be thinking about how is my team, how is my brand, how is my company connecting with people at the emotional level? Because people don't remember facts, they remember feelings. And that's really where you want to be.
Great, thank you. That was the last question I have here. Does anyone else have any other questions before we thank Jeb for his time and send him back to his very busy day? Now's your chance. Again, you can't always follow up with him directly via phone or email. You can always find us at the BrandChats and ask a question there, which will get answered. But we've got the man here live. If you have any questions, now's your chance. I have a question for you, and a little bit of a promotion for you, or pitch for you. When's the book release?
It just got out, I think 2 weeks ago, so it is out there in the marketplace, and it's called People Love You. It's available in digital format, and you can also get the hard copy, and you can buy it really anywhere. You go to Amazon, which is the easy place. I buy pretty much everything on Kindle these days, so it's an easy download, and you can grab it right off Amazon.
Can I grab it in Google Play or at the Apple Store?
Yep, you can get it in Google Play and at the Apple Store, so it's in any of those places.
Fantastic. Well, again, Jeb, thank you very much for joining us. Couldn't have thought of a better person to close out this series. Even though your topic is about customers in general, it really fits into social business strategies as far as these types of behaviors become that much more viral, either in the positive or negative sentiment online. One little mistake can cost you a lot of reputation. Doing something great can really, can really skyrocket the reputation of your company. So I think that this is a perfect addition to our series. Thanks again for joining us, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
And to everyone else who came and listened to Jeb speak and watched this presentation, thank you very much. Again, if you want to see it again, give me a week or two. We're going to start rolling out the recordings for this series, and then stay tuned, because in about 4 to 6 weeks, we'll be launching a new series on a little bit more about BrandChats and how we feel that social business should integrate with the rest of your business strategy.